I've officially lost my voice, so let's recap day 5. Another packed house for Taylor Townsend, who was taking on Caroline Mukova on the second biggest court, Louis Armstrong. I haven't seen this much net play all tournament, and Taylor's intensity in the first set was off the charts. She dipped in the second, though, and Mukova won in straight sets. She's into the second week. Next up was Aslan Karatsev and Ben Shelton on grandstand. Ben was serving bombs, and it was all too much for the Russian. Shelton has booked a date with Tommy Paul in the next round, which will most definitely be on a show court. The line to get into the general admission section for the Tiafoe match wrapped around the building, and it was the ticket to have. Mannarino proved tricky, but I haven't seen Tiafoe this locked in. If he keeps going like this, the semis are in his grasp. Finally, Taylor Fritz took on the birthday boy Jakub Mensik, who played valiantly, but Taylor, who is on a mission to shake off his bad runs at majors, was clinical.
Ready? Play.
Well, hello there.
Beat me to it, John.
I wasn't quite sure whether to go with it, but yes. How you doing?
Yours now.
How you doing, Nick? All right?
I'm doing all right. Yeah. Just come fresh off the tennis court myself.
Me too. I think I look a bit more like it. You still look pretty fresh, but
that's because I showered. I suspect maybe you haven't.
No, I haven't actually showered. Yeah, I didn't get time. So apologize, viewers, for my ragged appearance. But you'll be pleased to know I will be showering shortly after. Immediately after. Shortly after doesn't sound good, does it? Sounds like I'm going to hang around for another 20 minutes or so. Immediately after this, I'm going to shower.
I'll get the hose.
Yeah. Hi, Anastasia. And thank you for your intro video that we just played. I'm sure we'll also play it a couple more times later on today at various junctures. And great to see you in the chat. I know you'll be en route. I think actually Anastasia's going for the night session tonight at the US Open. Good morning, Ghosty. Good afternoon, of course, as it is here. And Ram as well. Hi, John. How are you guys doing today? We're doing good, I think. How was your tennis match then, Nick?
It was well, look, I'll start with the headline. I lost again. 6-love, 6-3. Very different sets. Like the first set couldn't get a rhythm going. Second set, there was only one break, loose game on my part that kind of cost me kind of near the beginning of the set, and I was just trying to avoid. I was just playing the best I could, but unfortunately my opponent's serve was just a little too good today. Was just so difficult to get any kind of returning in play. So
yeah. Mine was.
What about yours?
Mine was okay. One set all. We had the option of then doing a deciding set tie break, but instead we're just going to turn it into a 3-setter, and we'll resume sometime in a couple of days and just make it a best of 5, if you know what I mean. Like they do at Grand Slams, which is what we are here to talk about. The sunshine was a big factor in my match, and I think it was in at least one of the matches I saw yesterday in terms of being a disturbance for the players. But we'll get into that a bit later on, because actually the one match I'm thinking of in particular was on the women's side. But I know you're keen to begin with the men's side. Mm-hmm. I think we have to probably start with Djokovic, right?
Yeah, and that's more. I'm keen to start with the men's because when I woke up this morning and opened Twitter, everyone was talking about Djokovic. The fact that he went 2 sets to love down against Jerez. So, full disclosure, haven't actually seen it.
Me neither.
This is what happens when you have 2 Europeans running the show. we got to catch up as much as I could. I mean, from what I can gather, it sounded like Jere was playing amazing for the first couple of sets. Djokovic didn't really dial in until set 3, but once he dialed in, it was kind of inevitable, kind of like every other Novak Djokovic 2 sets to love comeback from 2 sets to love comeback we've seen in recent years. And I was just trying to work out actually how it's pretty difficult for anyone to do 3 consecutive sets against Novak Djokovic. I think the only 2 people who've done it in the last sort of 5 years have been Medvedev in that US Open final where Djokovic was clearly not himself, and Nadal in the Roland Garros 2020 final. Yeah. And I think that's it. I'm trying to remember back to his Grand Slam losses in 2018, but I'm definitely pretty confident in sort of in the last 5 years, they're the only people who've gotten 3 consecutive sets in a best of 5 match off Novak Djokovic. And that's just how hard he is to beat.
Yeah, indeed, especially over 5 sets, as you said. By the way, just breaking news, we might be a little bit late to this, even if it is breaking from just 8 minutes ago. Shane, who we had on the show for a few minutes yesterday, the data guy for Arina Sabalenka and Ons Jabeur, among others, says he's got some ground passes to give away. So get in the DMs of Shane. You can even DM me, perhaps even, and I can maybe facilitate something if we're quick enough. But we're probably even 10 minutes in. We're probably a little bit slow on this. But those of you tuning in and you are in the New York area and you're keen to get a grounds pass, we might be able to facilitate that. But let's see. Okay. So Djokovic, listen, I didn't see the match either. So we should probably have a quick look at some of the stats from that. And also, please get in the live chat and let us know what you thought of that encounter if you saw it. I'm just going to share a stat screen very quickly from Google here. Losing those first 2 sets, they were tight sets. And that was something the first thing I noticed from the scoreline was how the last 3 sets were not tight. Does that make sense? In a sort of Yannick Sinner-esque kind of Wimbledon comeback, sort of it just probably started to feel inevitable, probably when he got the break of serve at the beginning of the 3rd.
Yeah, insert Djokovic is the as Thanos meme. I am inevitable. Definitely. As you said, I think we both said already. It's kind of inevitable. I'm just having a look and seeing what we've got here. In Djokovic,
the percentage of Laszlo Djere must have let him down, winning 44% of those serves.
Yeah. It must have gone down over the course of the match as well.
Djokovic, of course, Djokovic a little bit more ruthless on the break points, 50%, as opposed to just 3 from 11, which is, again, kind of, the killer instinct that Novak has compared to most of the tour, particularly sort of those lower ranked. But he was there for the taking, it does appear. And the problem is that might have been it in terms of his run to the final, because his run to the final with players dropping like flies. I mean, Vaki for me is a player that would cause him more problems than Tommy Paul. Vaki went out yesterday. We already knew the draw in terms of Medvedev and possibly Sinner, I think, on a hard court in New York. Could have posed him a few problems, and Medvedev in particular, and Zverev as well, all on the other side of the draw. So it is difficult to imagine him losing between now and the final. But who saw him going 5 sets last night? I certainly didn't.
No, I do remember. I think I was having a chat with Matt Vedovic, who is known as @TheSentinel on Twitter. Part of the popcorn community. He's done a few
what's his name? Matt?
Few articles. Matt, yeah. @TheSentinel.
Okay.
And he is Serbian and a Djokovic fan, but he was a little worried about Djere. He thought Djere's game might bother Djokovic, maybe not to the extent that it ended up doing it. But Djere is a decent player. He's got a 500 title under his belt, has had a good run recently, obviously. Elena was very impressed by what she saw from him in Hamburg, which I think that's why he won his 500. It was either Hamburg or Rio. So yeah, I think Jere could had the game to sort of definitely trouble Djokovic but which it did. But yeah, in terms of the rest of the draw, yeah, I'm not seeing what anyone else who can bother him. Who's Djokovic got next? It's oh gosh, who is it? Yeah. So I mean, not massively expected that to be too much of a challenge for him.
On his half of the draw, basically all the players on the men's side that we're going to talk about today, such as Ben Shelton, by the way, who recorded a 147 miles an hour serve. He's actually just tweeted that out there as well a few minutes ago to the masses. I'm going to see if I can share
Iga's replied to it as well.
Oh, has she?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. That's cool. Nice.
Classic reference. Obviously, both running in kind of their both sort of main names for that brand. But yeah, 147 miles an hour.
Yes.
Shelton definitely impressing. Doing well against Karatsev. I think Karatsev.
Yeah.
From what I can gather, Karatsev faded a bit, but he. But credit to Shelton, he played a big game and took it to the former Australian Open semi-finalist.
Yeah, but also I actually also have had Karatsev as someone who could just be a fly in the Novak ointment. Just somebody who's a bit random, who can play lights out tennis, who has beaten Novak before, albeit on a clay court. So it's just an easy draw that's probably getting even easier. I would suggest. I just can't see. I can't see Novak getting pushed at all. Ben Shelton, maybe a big server, someone he's not played before. I don't think. But again, it was Karatsev. I thought, yeah, you just need a wild thing, a Marajan or a Rybakina, if you like, or a Karatsev, just somebody who's just going to throw you a curveball from time to time. You know, a Casper Ruud, for example. And Andre Rublev, I know that obviously Ruud is out and Rublev, I think, is on the other side of the draw. But these kind of players just are not going to, because they just do lots of things that Djokovic does, but nowhere near as good.
Yeah, I mean, that's been Sinner's problem, right? And to a certain extent,
I just think that Sinner's getting better. And of course, he took 2 sets off Novak last year on the grass at Wimbledon, and they were close in all 3 sets. In fact, probably... not 3 sets, probably the first and third set. I thought Sinner had chances at Wimbledon this year, and I just think that New York, the performance he put in against Carlos last year, if he replicated that level, which he can produce, could cause Novak trouble.
I wouldn't be surprised if one day Sinner got the win against Djokovic.
Yeah, exactly. But probably over 3 sets rather than 5, as we've probably already touched on.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I'm just having a look. Yeah, looking at sort of records Djokovic has against sort of other players in the draw. Well, not every player in the draw, because we kind of know what they are. But I would say that the only player I think who has a history of who has the potential to really take it to Djokovic is Tiafoe, who loves it in New York.
Yeah.
I'm not saying beat, but take it to.
Yeah, take it to him. Yeah.
Let's face it, he loves it in New York. He danced with Alcaraz for 5 sets last year. They played twice before, the most relevant being 2021 Australian Open. They played 2 tie breaks in that match, and
I remember that.
Got one of them.
Yeah, and he's got a nice. I think I don't want to be too disrespectful to Hijikata, but that's a nice 4th round. You know, if you're gonna play a 4th round, normally you're looking at a very, very difficult opponent. You know, a top 20 player kind of thing. Even if you are seeded 10 as Francis is. In fact, Francis, of course, seeded 10, could even play, I think, a top 8 player at this point. So he could be coming up against Novak or Carlos or Medvedev, for example. So Hijikata, not bad for a fourth round for a place to repeat. Of course, last year he got to the semifinals. So to get to the quarterfinals again, a second year in a row looks very possible for the American. He won in 4 sets. I think that match was on while you were live, right?
Yeah, so Eleanor was watching that one. I was watching the
Brady match.
the Brady Wozniacki match, but they changed over to it. So I caught the tiebreak in the 4th set.
Okay,
it was a 4-set tiebreak. Tiafoe got it. It was a bit back and forth, and Mannarino was definitely finding ways to frustrate Tiafoe, particularly with sort of not necessarily giving him consistent pace, but Tiafoe was handling the situation pretty well and obviously got the job done in the end. I have to say that I think Tiafoe looked pretty happy with that result, and I agree. Hijikata, no disrespect to Hijikata, like he's done really well to get this far, and he's having a good year, and obviously backing up. I think he won a set against Rafa last year, and I know Rafa was injured.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, in the first round, wasn't it?
Yeah, first round. But I think he entertained a lot of people in the process, and he's won the Australian Open doubles title this year.
Oh, has he this year? Was it okay?
That was him. Yeah, Hijikata with oh gosh, I'm looking it up now. Jason Kubler.
Okay. A nice combo. Yeah, especially in Australia.
So he's having a decent year. First second week of Slam, and look at his draw. He made the most of it, and he deserves to be here. But I do think that Tiafoe is going to be a step up compared to what he's used to, and he does struggle against sort of the very top players, of which I would kind of put Tiafoe in that mix.
Yeah, there was something I was going to say. Oh, yes, Jane, by the way. I know you're a New Yorker. I'm sharing on the screen once again, but of course, with every minute that ticks by, the likelihood reduces. But Shane has got grounds passes today, but that was 20 minutes ago he posted that. So, as I say, with every minute that passes, the likelihood of success probably does go down. But Jane, if you're quick, send me a message in the live chat, or perhaps even, I think we're connected on Instagram, Jane. Send me an Instagram direct message if you are interested, and I'll try and put you two together. Okay, back to the tennis from yesterday. So yeah, Tiafoe winning that one in 4 sets. I think he looks good. Is Tiafoe a quarter or semi-final potential opponent for Djokovic? I think semi-final. Because Tommy Paul and Fritz and Djokovic are on a collision course, and Paul and Paul and Tiafoe, Big Foe, and that, because actually this prediction from Damien pre-tournament quarterfinals, it's not looking too bad. It was probably a fairly solid one if I just share it on the screen right now. So he's gone for Tiafoe Paul. Mind you, I went for Vaki, I think, against Tiafoe. So he wins that one in that respect. At least he's got a round further. Medvedev Hurkacz. I get it with Hurkacz. That made sense. But pre-tournament, I had Hurkacz as well getting there. Djokovic, Fritz, and Alcaraz Sinner. So I think he's got 7 of the 8 semi-quarterfinals are still in the tournament for him, I think.
Same with me, my women's draw. So
yeah, but women's perhaps a little easier just to go for the big guns. I mean, we're just putting Muchova top 8 rather than sort of seeded 10 where she was. And I'm looking forward to talking about her because I saw her match in its entirety a little later.
Yeah, okay. Damien's good with it, but yeah, there was definitely for that section, there was definitely a debate, because if it was, we weren't confident that Rune and Ruud were going to get that far, and that's proven to be the case. And so it was going to be, well, who is going to get that spot? And it was generally considered to be someone like Tommy Paul, Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, or Frances Tiafoe. I think I agree. Paul looked, I mean, obviously that Paul Davidovich Fokina match was a little bit of a disaster.
I heard lots of things about Davidovich Fokina's health. I mean, he came into the tournament with some issues with his back from Cincinnati. He retired. And the reason why, by the way, so Davidovich Fokina, again, a little bit like Karatsev in a way with Djokovic. He beat him on the clay in Monte Carlo, all sorts of circumstances going on there. I get it. He played him at Roland Garros this year and should have won at least a set. He was a breakup in the first set. He had chances in the third. He's also a guy who has a high ceiling. He also played Djokovic on a hard court in Cincinnati, and I thought an off-color Djokovic in the first set was there for the taking, but unfortunately, Vaki midway through that first set got injured and actually basically had a back injury until the beginning of the second set, and he retired, putting his participation here in doubt. Although apparently yesterday it was a leg issue, I think.
Okay. Yeah, this is the second time we've seen something like this from Davidovich Fokina. I think the semi-final he had in Cincinnati, where he lost to Diminor. It was a very similar match.
What you mean, this year or last year?
This year.
Oh, yeah, that would have been Canada then. Yeah.
Oh, Canada. Okay. North American hardcourt.
Yeah.
Masters. We knew he was in there somewhere. Sorry, they just look alike. And, you know, they're 1 week after each other.
Yeah, they do. Session.
So, yeah, I think... and
as Ghosty knows that all Americans and Canadians saw the same thing. Ghosty, you know that, don't you, Ghosty? Good. All right. Offend North America. Tick. Okay, let's move on from this. Unless you want to say anything about Tommy Paul.
No, I think he's going to be pleased with that win. I think he dropped that third set because obviously the momentum shifted a little bit and he wasn't sure what to do with this opponent who kind of raised his level a little bit. But he should, I think he's put himself in a really good position to make the most out of this tournament. And yeah, maybe even make a second semi-final. But I think Tiafoe is going to have something to say about that. Who do you want to go to next?
Having a quick look at Fritz against Mensik. I know Damien was commentating on this, and of course Jakub Mensik. A shout out to him for being the Jakub Bobro Player of the Week going into the US Open, winning 3 qualifiers, of course, coming through them incredibly. Actually coming through to getting to the third round incredibly is a really good achievement. Sadly, Fritz was in no mood to give him an 18th birthday present at all. In fact, he gave him 3 games, and the final set was a bagel. I do remember a comment from Ghosty in the chat last night, which was something along the lines of Mensik's getting spanked here anyway. So that's the one line I can remember, because I didn't actually watch the match. I know Damien was probably a bit glum because I think he was hoping for a competitive match. I know he was excited for it and was excited to see Mensik again, but sadly it was just one step too far. And Fritz, though, listen, Fritz, was it you? I think, no, actually, it might have been Anastasia at the beginning was saying, a few Grand Slam hangovers, let's say, because I think going into the US Open, his record since losing and including the defeat to Rafa Nadal at Wimbledon last year was something along the lines of 3 wins and 4 losses, something like that. I remember calculating it around, because he went out early at Wimbledon, which for me was another disappointment for him. He went out in the first round in New York last year. He goes out quite early in Paris. That's okay, because that's, it's Paris. He went out in the second round in Australia to Popperin, I think it was. Popperin or Pospisil. I always get those two muddled up. I think it was Popperin. So it's good for him to make the second week, and he should be. He's seeded 9, but he's hard court, grass court. He should be getting to quarterfinals and beyond, to be honest with you. That's how good he is, especially with that serve when it's firing. So he's into the 4th round, although I have to confess, I don't know who he's coming up against.
Dominic Stricker.
Oh, okay. Let's have a quick word on the Swiss. Obviously, I tell you what, it's very impressive with Stricker's win yesterday. 5 sets as well. But it's so easy for him to come off that win against Tsitsipas and then sort of get yourself back down to earth. Because I think even did you see him singing during the Tsitsipas match?
Yes.
Very fun.
He wanted to dance with somebody.
I want to dance with somebody by Whitney Houston, yeah. So I'm just reading something in the chat from Ghosty. He has been given a great draw. I agree. It could be, but I think 2 5-setters now for Stricker. Yeah, and Fritz, I think he is probably a step up despite his shaky compared to Tsitsipas. I mean, despite Fritz's shaky Grand Slam record that I just highlighted. Right now, I think, despite that, I think Fritz is in a slightly better place than Tsitsipas for all sorts of different reasons. So probably I can see Fritz winning and therefore setting up a quarterfinal clash with Djokovic.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Stricker, Bonzi, I saw kind of a bit of that match because I should have been going to bed, but I needed to make sure I had a cup of tea after nearly losing my voice. But I watched it, and like Bonzi was absolutely crushing the ball.
Okay.
Absolutely crushing the ball. And Stricker lived up to it pretty well. We thought maybe he'd had a bit of a sluggish start. Maybe he was cooked after the Tsitsipas match, but he's not. But I agree with you. 2 consecutive 5-setters going up against Taylor Fritz, who's pretty fresh, maybe pretty confident.
Pretty fresh is an understatement. I mean, he was done in an hour and a half last night.
Yeah.
I
would sit down in the chat yesterday when I was doing Wozniacki Brady, and he was convinced that Fritz was going to lose. Like the thing is, people assume that Fritz is not that great, and I know about his slam record. I think it was 4-4, 4 wins, 4 losses. Thanks, Anastasia. But I don't. Yeah, I think he's, when he's on, he's on. I think he's back into he's finally made the 4th round of the US Open for the first time in his career. Good on him. That's his 3rd ever 4th round of a slam. And he's got a great opportunity to make a second quarterfinal, which would be probably against Djokovic. I think Stricker's probably going to lack the energy required to do it. He might get a set. I'm going to be optimistic and say he gets a set, but Fritz might just be too good for him this time round. Maybe when they play each other in the future, Stricker will get him.
Yeah. Okay. Any other matches that you recall and really wanted to share your thoughts on? I'm just going to go through the results on the screen.
Having a look at the men's draw, I think we've pretty much mentioned every single person apart from we've mentioned Goyo in passing, but I cannot really comment much on it other than sort of well done to Goyo.
Well done for getting to the 4th round, but I think he's about to roll over and get his belly tickled by Novak. In the next round. So yeah, Goyo beating Vesely as well. I tell you what, the one thing I will say about that is it's a piece of good news for Novak, because Vesely's got a 2-0 record against Novak.
He does, although I would have been, I was well up for Vesely maybe because I thought Vesely would do to Novak what Jere did to Novak, to be honest.
I could see Vesely, doing something just because of their record. I still think over 5 sets, and I think there's a few asterisks, certainly by the most recent defeat. I think it was Novak's first tournament in about 4 months when he played in Dubai, was it, or Doha? I always get those two confused.
It was Dubai, yeah.
Dubai, yeah. So, so there was a few there, and I think there was a tiebreak involved, and it was close, and he'd won a couple of matches, Novak, but he was still easing his way back into the tour, let's say. A bit like the Vaki lost in a way at Monte Carlo the same year, funny enough, just within a couple of months of each other. No, it probably wasn't until Rome of 2022 when Novak was starting to fire on all cylinders, I would say. Anyway, plus Vesely had 2 5-setters, Matthew suggesting. So, and if he was to come back from 2 sets to down.
I was about to make that point, to be honest. Okay. Like this time round, I don't think, even if Vesely had got past Goyo, I think he wouldn't have anything left in the tank for whatever Novak was going to throw at him.
Yeah. Anyway, Jane, I do think you're too late for the tickets anyway, even though I've probably mentioned them about 72 times already. So I guess we've
snooze, you lose.
Yeah, exactly. Jane sort of, obviously, she's often in the background, which is wonderful, but unfortunately, I kept trying to push her because she's the only person I know off the top of my head in the chat who might be up for those tickets. Before this show concludes, I think we need to discuss Nick's feedback. Yes, we definitely will. We will. Don't you worry about that. I guess it's probably time to switch over to the women. There was no stories yesterday, I did a little news story yesterday because there was a couple of coaching splits on with Tsitsipas and Holger Rune. I'm just trying to think before we move over to the women if there was any news stories from
not that I remember. I do have a quick question.
Go on.
Obviously the Jakob Bobro Player of the Week, when are we going to be doing that one? Is it going to be after the US Open?
Yeah, we might do it in sort of 10 days. That probably would make more sense to go back on the US Open and say, by the way, Mensig, despite his crushing defeat yesterday, might be up for it again. But
Well, it's
Why?
between Mensik and a couple of others.
Who are you thinking at the moment, by the way?
Well, if you're looking at sort of outside the top 100, there are two players who are currently ranked outside the top 100 who made the fourth round, which is Hijikata and Stricker.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens. Listen, if Stricker beats Novak,
Stricker's got to beat Fritz first.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. Well, if he beats Fritz, listen, I think that's probably enough. I would imagine. But we'll probably get to that at the end of the tournament rather than mid-tournament.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do. Borna Goyo was also outside the top 100.
Yeah, true.
So all the bottom half of the draw.
There you go.
Like
someone beats Novak. That's how you get it. All you got to do is you got to beat the 23-time Grand Slam winner. You get the Jakob Bobro Player of the Week. It was second choice, actually, Ghosty. We had one the week before. The Dutch guy who'd won a few challenges, whose name escapes me right now. But he didn't make it through qualies, I don't think. Okay. Now then. I'm going to begin on the women's side by talking about the first match of the day. The first player to make it through to the second round, which was Karolina Muchova in her clash with Taylor Townsend. I say it pretty confidently that she was the first player to go through to the next round because I was commentating at the time, and it was 2 sets, and the only other match that was going on at the same time was a 3-setter. Schmiedlova was involved with. So yeah, Muchova against Taylor Townsend. A lot to discuss here, actually. I don't know if you caught any of this match.
I did, actually. I mean, I was working. And it was kind of a critical point in the day for me. So I couldn't really do any deep analysis of what's going on. But for what I could see, like Townsend came out the blocks absolutely firing, really putting Muchova under a lot of pressure, using a lot of different variety, coming to net, and just putting Muchova under pressure. And she did break, only to then concede an immediate break straight away. And Muchova, I honestly think that's probably the most this was the first match where I went, okay, she's officially a top player, because she grew into that match. She took the tie break. That was a dominant tie break from her.
Oh yeah.
And just controlled the match from there. And Townsend, did her best in the second set, but Muchova had too much for her. By sort of end of the first set, you could see that she was starting to fire properly. And yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm looking at Muchova and going, I may have underranked her.
Yeah, although what did you have her at? Like about 7,
6.
Was it in your? Yeah.
6.
Okay, well 6 is, I think, about. So you had Jabeur at 7, did you?
Vondrousova for 7.
Jabeur at 8?
Yeah.
Jabeur at 5? No,
Jabeur's 8. Pegula 5.
Okay. You know what we're going to do? You know what I'm going to do right now?
You're going to play it now, aren't you?
Yeah, I am going to play it, just to be sure, for me at least, and probably, or at least our audience anyway, because so you can have a. So this is Nick's power rankings on the women's side.
Yeah, going into this. Can I make a quick comment?
Go on.
That was not the best picture of Muchova.
This one right now. I mean, it's not.
No, the one in the video.
No, maybe not. I can't remember it, to be honest with you. But
she looks pretty puffed and red in the face.
Okay, yeah. Well, she looks a bit puffed and red in the face there, and she was a bit puffed and red in the face at various points in that first set because the sun was giving her a lot of trouble, more so than Townsend. because Townsend was wearing a hat for a start. And there was one, for example, not kind of lob, but a lofted ball from Taylor. And Mukova's like this. She just can't see where in a fort. I mean, she's worried that it's going to land in. It turned out it landed like 2 meters out. And much to her relief, because she just couldn't see the ball. And there was a few things like that yesterday. There was also, I saw Vonch tweeting about the amount of net play and stuff yesterday as well. But funny enough, neither were that great at the net yesterday. Both were net rushing. I think in Taylor's case, she was probably trying to shorten the points a little bit. And in Mukova's, just because Mukova was coming in off shots that you probably wouldn't expect a lot of players to come in on, but she obviously feels confident enough at the net, and I think that is the case. But yesterday, I think neither player had a great track record on the net. I think they were about 60% point success rate, which generally, if you're coming into the net, you should be coming in a strong point in the rally, if you like. You're not coming from a defensive position. So 60% for two people at the net who are generally pretty good, I think was a little disappointing. But it was a great first set. For 12 games, Taylor was the better player. Taylor was constantly on that serve of Mukova. She had chances to break in each of the first 3 games. She took one of them in the second service game of Mukova, but it could have been a double break advantage. I mean, the first game of the match was, I think, 3 or 4 break points. So her probably only disappointment, well, one of her disappointments maybe for Taylor in that first set is there were chances more for her than Carolina. It was Carolina that was relieved to go into the tiebreak. And perhaps because of that, often, if you're the player who's been a bit down in the set, but you got to the tiebreak, you were down a break as well, you got to the tiebreak, and you're the higher ranked player, tends to go in that direction. Obviously, crushing her in the tiebreak 7-0. Also, what was really interesting in the tiebreak, again, coming back to the sun, the first 6 points of the tiebreak, Mukova was up the more favorable end of the court where there was quite a bit of shade. And so she wasn't going to deal with any issues with high balls and the sun, but also perhaps just being a bit cooler down there. So you can I didn't expect, but I did say at the beginning of the tiebreak, I said, watch this now. Mukova's going to have an advantage at the change of ends. It could be 4-2, it could be 5-1, but she's going to have an advantage. And in the end, it was 6-0. And that was the tiebreak, and that was the match.
Yeah. And that was it, really, because Mukova, as we said, took control. I hadn't noticed the sun, but again, you were commentating, so you could zone in on those details. So that's an interesting point. And the fact that, that's why we swap sides in tennis, right? To try and mitigate those disadvantages. But clearly, by the time they did swap sides in that tiebreak, it was too late. So Mukova looking very strong and, now maybe the favourite to make at least the semi-finals.
Yeah, where potentially she will meet Ostapenko.
Very potential, but that's got a lot of potential to it.
Yes, indeed. What do you think about this fourth round? It's not today, it's tomorrow. Normally on this show, we look back on the previous day and we look ahead to the next day. Well, first of all, both of these players obviously coming through in very different fashions. Let's talk about Iga's match, because I know you were over this as well. And you were very impressed, despite some people might look at the level of the opponent. Some people, like Damien, highlighted rightly that she doesn't really struggle in any of her first 3 matches at slams, unless the opponent is called Yulia Niemeyer. So basically, she just tends to win very comfortably. And yesterday, the scoreline, which is all I'm basing it off, looks like that. However, even with that scoreline, you were very impressed, right?
Here's what I will say about that. So I did watch that match, and I enjoyed that match thoroughly.
Yeah.
But not because my favorite player won, but because it just looked just so assured. There were so many winners, very few unforced errors. Because I've seen Iga win 6 love sets and get taken to 30 in most games. And this wasn't happening. And Juvan is a player who has given Iga headaches in the past. Like, I remember there was a match they played at Roland Garros, I think in 2021, first round. And I think the first set went 7-5 or 7-6. There were a couple of really close sets. Juvan has the ability to trouble Iga. And if I look at if I compare it to a very similar win that Iga had in third round at Roland Garros this year, which was against Buxa. And Buxa just had nothing. She was underpowered compared to Iga. That was a 6-love. That was a bagel match based on Buxa not really having any weapons to trouble Iga. Whereas Juvan was having put a bit of pace on it and trying to move Swiatek around. Swiatek was just having none of it. She was just clocking winners. Actually, I think that Buxa match, Swiatek didn't even need to try and hit winners. She was just waiting for the error. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. I think, yes, Iga's not really troubled in the first 3 rounds of slams, but she's been looking especially good the first 3 rounds of this one. So yeah, that I thought that, yeah, maybe Juvan was never going to win that match, but I didn't expect it to be quite so emphatic, and mostly because Iga decided to have a good day.
Is it good preparation though for Ostapenko? Maybe not. Maybe she needs to be pushed a bit more. I mean, I'm not predicting an Ostapenko win. I just think, I mean, you can't choose your preparation, but
you wouldn't be mad to predict an Ostapenko win.
No, but I do think I think some people may be going a bit too big on it too. Listen, Ostapenko lights out tennis, yes. But also lights out tennis can also sometimes mean 80 unforced errors. I think Ghosty told me the other day in her second round match against Avanesian. I actually had Avanesian to win that. I had Avanesian to meet, I think, Iga, and to go out at that stage. But that was a really good match from a couple of days ago. Actually, I saw that. So that was exciting. In fact, it must have been two or 3 days now, because obviously Ostapenko winning in 3 sets yesterday. Let's just have a quick word on it while I've got you, because I don't think you're not going to be on tomorrow. So
no.
just give us your thoughts on Ostapenko, Iga.
So I'm going to think of a few thoughts. So Ghosty very kindly gave us some updates in the chat yesterday, because he was watching Ostapenko versus Pera, and Ostapenko came through that in 3. She's come through every match in 3, as I said. She beat Avanesian. She beat Paolini. I thought she was going to lose to Paolini in round 1. And it's very typical Ostapenko progress, where she will hit a lot of unforced errors, but she will also play well enough to still get the job done. That performance is not going to cut. The kind of performance against Iga is not going to cut it. She's going to need to stabilize a lot more. That match is going to be decided more by Ostapenko's level than by Iga's level, because if Ostapenko comes in and cuts the unforced errors and she hits lights out, she can knock Iga off the court. She's done that 3 times in her career already. She did it.
What's the head-to-head?
3-0 to Ostapenko.
Oh, she's never beaten her.
Nope. Iga came pretty close the last time they played, which was in Dubai last year. That was the match Iga lost before the streak started. It was a really close match as well. Like, I think it was a 7-5 or a 7-6 decider. Here's the thing. Iga's developed since. Ostapenko has gotten scrappier. Like, the Ostapenko in that Dubai tournament was playing lights out tennis from start to finish, because she won that title in the end. And she's blasting her way through the opening rounds as well, but that's not what happened. She scrapped her way through this one. So yes, if Ostapenko shows up and delivers, yeah, we've got an upset on our hands. But if it's not that Ostapenko, Iga Swiatek just needs to sit back, absorb whatever Ostapenko throws at her, wait for the errors, attack the second serve, and she's through. She might drop a set. She usually gets tested around 4. But yeah, that's how I kind of see it, is if Ostapenko plays like how she has been, Swiatek has got this. And so here's what I'm saying to Ghosty, is that, yeah, your girl's coming for mine, but my girl's ready for her. So on behalf of Iga Swiatek, I'm saying, bring it.
Bring it on. Bring it on. That is very exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. Please, those of you watching, hit that like button, whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. Also get involved in the live chat. And if you are new to the channel, just click that subscribe button. It's just below the screen, and we look forward to having you on board this tennis train. Okay, my train of thought right now. Let's have a word on Rybakina. She went out in 3 sets. I actually wasn't even sure if we'd already spoken about it, but it was before we went live. I think we were talking about
before we went live. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were sort of talking about it in shock levels, but it's a surprise for sure, right?
Yeah. So many people had Rybakina in their semi-finals, including me.
Yeah.
I know there were some questions about her fitness. I'm not sure how much that played a part. I didn't see it. I did put a tweet out asking people for kind of input. Lots of really helpful responses, particularly from an account called Tennis Updates. So if you don't follow them, they're really, really good, and they're a real pleasure to interact with, actually. So from what I can gather from the intel from people I trust, also autistic tennis fans.
That sounds like something very technical and very intel is like we're talking about Afghanistan here.
From what I can gather from some trusted sources like Tennis Update and Autistic Tennis Fan as well. Castella was playing really great tennis from the back of the court. She was just going for her shots. And when she's doing that, she's basically a challenge for anyone. Don't forget, she beat Aryna Sabalenka earlier this year. And Rybakina still got a set. She still fought like crazy. Some people are saying maybe her serve was a little bit off today. And, we know what happens with Rybakina. If her serve's not firing, then she's going to have a bit more of a struggle. But credit to her, it's Rybakina having a slightly off day against Castella having a really good day. And obviously that's going to be how the result went. But Rybakina still got a set. And here's the thing. When Rybakina's lost matches, she's usually at least got a set or taken it to a tiebreak. So she's still very much a player to beat in this in the tour at the moment. She will be probably a little bit disappointed. This now officially ends the Indian Wells New York Lovin', as in the run of Indian Wells champions. They've gone to win in New York. So this will no longer happen. We'll have to try it. This won't happen this year. We'll have to see if it's a repeated pattern in future years. But hey, we'll have to see how that develops. But yeah, Rybakina might be a little bit disappointed, but I wouldn't call it a bad loss given the quality of opponent and given she still got a set.
Probably good news even for somebody such as Ons. Sabalenka even. I know they're on opposite side of the draw, but I just saw a picture of Sabalenka and I just thought to myself, it's far from a 2-horse race. Far from it. I think Coco, Jessica, Carolina will have a lot to say about this. Interesting, I think most of those players are on one side of the draw. I do think Iga's side is a little bit more difficult than Aryna's. I think Jessica Pegula maybe is on Aryna Sabalenka's. I think
she's on Sabalenka's side.
That semi-final potential match there. But I think that's not too bad for Sabalenka. And of course, if Iga doesn't make it to the final, then that again is now that Rybakina is gone, because I think Rybakina is somebody that can beat Aryna Sabalenka when Sabalenka's playing well. It was so close in Australia. I think Mukova's beaten her back-to-back now, both on clay and on hard court in recent months. The most recent one was in Canada, I think. Was it Canada semi-final? Canada semi-final, I think, where it was 3 sets and Carolina won that one. Again, I think coming from a set down. So that's somebody that can be a problem for her. But it's looking okay for Sabalenka at the moment. She's not dropped a set. But anyway, she's playing later on today. We'll have a quick look forward to that shortly. Just elaborate what you're talking about with the Indian Wells relationship that we touched on before the tournament began.
Yeah, so it was just this weird thing this trend that seemed to happen whenever Indian Wells was held in spring, March, from 2018 until last year. The Indian Wells champion ended up winning the US Open. So it started with Naomi Osaka winning in 2018. That was her breakout title in many ways, beating Kasakina in the final. And then she went on to beat Serena Williams in the US Open final. Bianca Andreescu repeated that in 2019. 2020, Indian Wells didn't happen. 2021, Indian Wells ended up being moved to after the US Open. But then 2022, Iga Swiatek won Indian Wells during her win streak and then went on to win the US Open. So I think there was one point, I think, before I did my official power ranking list where, like, just purely based on that, Rybakina was my favorite for the title. But then having watched how Canada and Cincinnati kind of panned out, it was like, no, like that's not enough of a basis to put it top. But yes, that was a fun little run that was being had for Indian Wells making the top group. Are you showing us the
screen right now, just out of interest?
So yes, I can see the screen.
Good. So you can see you basically mid sentence, right?
Yes, thinking about whatever the next word I'm going to say is.
Yeah.
Years, when Indian Wells has been in March, the last 3 times Indian Wells has been in March.
Can you hear this well?
The US Open. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Oh,
interesting.
I can tell you a little chuff about this facts that I keep telling you.
No way. Well, Elena Rybakina will not be repeating the trick this time.
To be safe, it's optimistic based on patterns. It's optimistic for me to predict Iga Swiatek to win the US Open title based on the fact that no one successfully defended a US Open title since Serena Williams.
Yeah.
Nearly 9 years ago.
Yeah, there's I get that, but maybe the 1 or 2 winners that we've had in that group, such as maybe Bianca and Emma, suggest that a repeat win in those years was unlikely. The age was also an interesting. I think nobody over the age of like 24, 25 has won it since Serena as well. Panetta
and Kerber were over. Well, Panetta was over 30 in 2015 because she retired straight away, and then Kerber, I think, was 28.
So I think 2017, Stevens at the age of 24. And then 2018, Osaka, age 20, BB 19, Osaka 22, Raducanu 18, and Swiatek 21. I mean, even just looking at the last 5, they've all been 22 or under. And of course, Swiatek is 22 right now, so she's still.
So that would fit the Osaka bracket, right?
Yeah, sort of a repeat, a year or 2 later, exactly. Yeah. Question for John to be ready aloud in the presence of, to be read aloud, I guess. Once Ostapenko ends the Iga run and then goes on to take the US Open title, do we have to reformulate the WTA Big 3? I think it's just a big one if Ostapenko goes on to win the title. So that was a nice, easy one. Matthew there suggesting he didn't think Rybakina would win anyway. No shock for me. Talk of Big 3 is premature. Let's see how Rybakina does. Yeah, I mean. Yeah, it is premature. I think every time we're saying it, we sort of know we are a little bit early on that train. You need to see a block of probably 3, 4, 5 years of work before, you start talking about big things. But I think there was a gap it seemed to be developing, but I think that has possibly narrowed in the last 6 months. That we could see that developing at the beginning of the year, probably up until maybe even Roland Garros, where they just were winning all the big tournaments. And I think until Coco Gauff probably won, we had Kvitova winning in
Miami. Yeah, Krejcikova winning Dubai.
Yeah. And that was the end of Krejcikova's year, unfortunately, because she's not. Yeah, I know what you're giggling for, because until the US Open, I thought that was a big shock, her going out in the first round here. I'm not saying that I thought she was going to win the tournament, but again, the opponent. Yeah, I watched that match too, and Krejcikova's form unfortunately has fallen off a cliff. As Sean suggests in the chat, by the way, the Big 3 is a catchy expression, probably. Make sure you hit the like button, by the way. Last I saw, we were only at 5 likes, so Nick and I must be underwhelming today.
I think also when we talk about these, Rybakina wasn't. The thing is, I think the Big 3 still worked even when all these Czech or American players were winning tournaments, because it's basically the Big 3 plus the Czechs and the Americans, and they were all going deep in those tournaments. They were at least semi-finals, finals even, and So they were the most consistent. They're pretty consistently strong presence. Where I'd be interested to know, sort of maybe on Matthew's point, was like, yeah, big three, maybe pretty sure. Big three works for right here, right now. We're not necessarily talking about this as this is how it's going to be for the next couple of years. I'm fully expecting it to shift, but certainly for the first half of this year, maybe even continuing into the second half, they are the three most likely players to win the tournament. I mean, maybe Rybakina's not won a Grand Slam this year, but hey, we were still talking about Big Four 10 years ago on the men's tour, and Andy Murray was struggling more than the other three to win slams.
Any final words on Bencic and Wong winning their matches yesterday?
Bencic, I don't know why I was so down on her, to be honest, because of course it's New York.
Oh, I do know. I think I get it. She's been off form, but we do know her New York love affair. But
she does well at New York, and she does well at New York in odd numbered years. She always gets the quarterfinals in odd numbered years.
Okay, her draw was quite good as well, which is, I think, nice for her.
Yes, exactly. So great result for her. I'm not expecting Wong to be too much of a well, actually, no, she's playing Castella. That could be interesting, but I think Castella's probably going to dip after that high of beating Rybakina, and I would expect Bencic to come through that, and maybe she can throw a spanner in the works for Mukova's run. But yeah, I'm pleased for Bencic that she's kind of got her season back on track in New York, where we know that she does well. Wong, great result for her second week. Didn't see that match, but continues to be an important stepping stone in her career.
Just two more matches on the women's side, but two very significant ones, and four players with a really good pedigree on the women's tour. I would suggest that there's a lot to sort of two 3-set matches. Coco Gauff, I didn't see this match, but I did see that she was in trouble. I think, what was I doing at the time? Maybe I think you were just beginning your show or around that time.
She was the first one on the night session.
She night session, was she? Maybe it was Damien that was on. But either way, I just remember going, oh, Gauff is in big trouble. But she quickly arrested that slide from the first set and didn't really look back from that moment onwards. Coco, of course, on a collision course with either Ostapenko or Iga Swiatek in the quarterfinal. I have that match set for Gauff against Swiatek. Let's see if we get that. Fingers crossed we do in many respects. I did think with Coco and her run that really the first round, perhaps in terms of pressure, unless she maybe gets to the final, might have been the tricky one. Going into that first round match, I think I saw a stat from, I'm not sure if it's Infosys or IBM, but it was like 91% chance that she's winning this match against Lauda Sigmund. Sigmund, by the way, I think is still serving her second serve. That she's taken her time, let's say. Anyway, but yeah. So I just think that the weight of expectation going into this tournament and in that match, and first up, and it was Ash night session, I think, on the first day of the tournament on the Monday. All of that combined, I think, was there, and it was palpable in her first round match. So once she came through that 26-minute game at the beginning of the second set against Lauda, that was kind of it from there. Now the shackles are off. Okay, she may have lost the second set. But I even think going against Iga, there's not too much pressure because I still think Iga's the favorite. She'll want to perform, but I think we'll see a good Coco against Iga.
I think we will too, but this is assuming she gets through Wozniacki, which I expect she will.
I think she will, and I hope she will too. But
I think I think all round Coco does everything that Wozniacki does well better. That match against Mertens was interesting. So they were replaying it just now, sort of in the background. So it looked like an absolute battle between those two. To be honest, Mertens was just refusing to go away up until Coco finally secured the second set, and then
Mertens was doing the same in the previous round against Collins. Well, just wouldn't go away, and she stuck it through.
Yeah, but I think Mertens kind of faded in the end. But she did well to kind of make it a real fight with Gauff, and I think that was a real test for Gauff. It was a 2-hour match, and I think Gauff's looked a little scrappy this tournament. To be honest, from seeing what I've seen, but she's handled it well. I think if she's scrappy against Iga, she's going to have a problem, but she's also going to be going in, as you're right, as a little bit more of the underdog. Or Ostapenko. Maybe she'll be playing Ostapenko. I would actually be fairly confident in Gauff beating Ostapenko, to be honest. Especially this version of Gauff. And yeah, I think she's going to be playing a bit freer maybe later in the tournament if she becomes less sort of the midpoint in the tournament, because she'll be less of a favorite. But I think if she gets to another major final, say she overcomes the Iga hurdle, and then has to deal, and then I could see her beating Mukova or Bencic in the semis. She may be a rabbit in the headlights. Who knows? But I doubt it. She's too much of a fighter. But it's one of those things you need to think about. But yeah, Coco's looking good, and she's definitely showing her star quality this US Open, and giving the crowd plenty of reasons to back her, not just this year, for years to come. In many ways, we were talking about sort of the pattern of young players using the US Open to breaking through, like Osaka, Andreescu, Swiatek to cap off an incredible year for her, despite being only 21. Raducanu, obviously, famously. Gauff is the obvious name to add to the list as this is the date, this is the tournament that she breaks out. And that would be an incredible story.
Indeed, it would be. I think she's winning the US Open one day. Might just be a little bit early, but we'll see. Wozniacki Brady, I think you were watching that match pretty closely yesterday. I was pulling for Brady, and of course, for one set, it was looking good.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Brady was the better player for the first set, maybe in the very beginning of the second. Wozniacki, just held her ground really well in the first set. Did well to keep it to the one decisive break, just a loose game at 4-5. Brady was firing, but Wozniacki wore her down as the match progressed. She just kept extending the rallies, and that's not bad for someone who is 33, something like that. Coming back after 3 years off tour, having suffered with rheumatoid arthritis. That's not the kind of match strategy you would expect from someone with someone at this point in their career. But she did it. It worked. It wore Brady out. She just played the wall game, and she's in the second week of a Grand Slam once again. And full credit to the 2018 Australian Open champion. So yeah, it's going to be special for her to be back. I know there's been some discussions around which the night match is going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if Wozniacki Gauff was the night match, but
could you not have
a better case for Iga?
I guess it's got to be one women's, one men's, really.
Oh yeah, I mean, on the Ash night match, I suppose they could both be night matches, but the Ash night match.
I just hope it's not Novak or probably Carlos either, because they seem to be still.
Yeah, I'm talking about which women's match they pick.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I'd be up for 2 women's matches. I'd go for Wozniacki Gauff and Ostapenko Iga. I wonder if Ostapenko Iga will be Ash, but in the daytime, and they'll put Gauff on at night. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, because there's a lot of name recognition with Wozniacki as well.
This match will be on Sunday, right? I think
yes,
Sunday, yeah, because actually Sunday and I think Monday, but somebody Ghosty maybe in the chat can confirm this, but I think Monday's a public holiday in New York. I forget what the name of this
Labor Day.
Labor Day, yeah, right. So it's often a pretty good day, and as a result, I believe that Tuesday/Wednesday. The tickets are a bit more available and also cheaper as well, funny enough. So if you're out for getting cheaper tickets in New York, Tuesday, Wednesday's your day. I will say that I'm just looking at sort of the men's matches that could be on, and we're talking about sort of potential night matches on Sunday, even though we're on Saturday and Saturday hasn't happened yet. I reckon the night match for the men's on Ash has got to be Paul Shelton. Yeah, the all American.
That's going to be it.
Yeah, who's Fritz is playing Stricker, right? Yeah. That makes sense.
One of those two, I think.
Who's Tiafoe playing?
Tiafoe is playing Hijikata.
Okay, yeah. Paul. That makes sense. Okay, let's look ahead to today's matches before wrapping this up. Schedule for today. Actually, I haven't even looked at the schedule myself yet, and I'm thinking
I will
about
get it
doing
up.
a live commentary
I've-
for the first
So,
round.
first match on Ash, Carlos Alcaraz versus Dan Evans.
Okay, I'm just looking at it right now. Yeah, we can actually flip between the men and the women as we do this, I guess.
Yeah, I think we should flip between the two. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got Alcaraz, Evans, and Svitolina Pegula. Are they both day matches on Ash?
Yeah, that's the day session on Ash. That's a good day session ticket actually for Ash. That's probably the best Ash day session ticket there's been because so far because Alcaraz Evans is going to feature a lot of shot making tennis.
Yeah, I mean Evans can be a lot of fun. He might get a set. I saw them play in Barcelona this year when the gap was pretty wide on the clay in Spain. But yeah, I think Evans with his Washington form.
If Evans struggles to get sets against Djokovic and Federer back in the day, I think he'll struggle to get sets against Alcaraz.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I think Alcaraz may be a bit more generous at this stage in his career than those two in a way against players such as Evans. But we'll see. Let's see how this pans out. And we'll in a few hours I'll come back at you when he's won a set, and I'll be sure to remind you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Call me out on anything I say that turns out to be wrong. That's my general rule when I'm online.
Good. So as you say, though, I think there's 3, maybe even 4 of these matches. Baez, Medvedev, have they played recently and something happened?
I don't think they've played before. Jethro would know because obviously he's a big Sebastian Baez fan. He's absolutely gutted he can't watch Baez live because it's going to start about 2 a.m. our time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he has work pretty early, so it's not going to happen for him. But
never played. You're right.
Yeah, never played. So it's going to be I think the thing is with that match, Baez is a very strong baseliner, like Medvedev, and I think the thing is when Medvedev comes against a strong baseliner, unless it's Novak, Medvedev has the advantage usually. So maybe Baez gets a set, but I think Medvedev should win that one.
Yeah, Baez is doing pretty well on the hard courts at the moment. Of course, he's on a winning streak, I think, of about 10 or 11 matches, I think.
He's doing really well. Like I don't. This is not a knock against Baez at all.
No.
Like I'm gutted that his draws put him into Medvedev so soon.
And Medvedev, previous winner. I mean,
yeah.
So I tell you what, that match for Jabeur,
Brushkova, yeah.
You going to predict Brushkova to win that one?
Not predict. Say it's a very strong possibility. So I actually predicted that it was a strong possibility pre-tournament. When I was doing my draw picks, I was going back and forth as to going.
Yeah, and I think pre-tournament I went Jabeur, but right now I'm not.
No, now I think with Jabeur the way she's in, like Brushkova in strong form. Yeah, I think when I picked Jabeur pre-tournament, that was a 55-45 pick, and I think it's down to 52-48. Jabeur should have all the tools she needs to beat Brushkova. Brushkova definitely has the tools she needs to beat an under-par Jabeur. Welcome to our new US Open graphic.
It's got some clay on this one. I don't know if you can see that clay stain. So
I think that's the US Open. I think basically you've just done a live action version of the Sky intro for the US Open.
And mine's a budget version, but we are available to sponsorship, of course, particularly for tennis brands. And Wilson, by the way, do some pretty cool clothes, actually, T-shirts. They do some sort of funky. I've got a couple, and they're pretty cool. I'm switching. I'm going for, just because of what I've seen. I've only seen a little bit of Brushkova, but I think she's been pretty impressive so far. And Jabeur with some health issues, I think, etc. By the way, I interviewed yesterday Shane Leonage from On's team, and I've actually clipped it up and put it up as a separate video. So make sure you check out that interview with Shane. It's a 15-minute interview we did yesterday, talking all things Jabeur and Sabalenka as well.
We one last point. We do make a lot of illness. Don't forget, Juan Martín del Potro did make the US Open semi-finals whilst having the flu, coming back from 2 sets to love down against Dominic Thiem and getting a set off Rafa. So it doesn't necessarily break your tournament.
What year was that, by the way?
2017.
Okay. That's the year that Rafa won it, right? Against Anderson.
One of the years Rafa won it. Yes.
Yeah, one of the 4, yes.
Yes. This is a
Okay.
good tournament for you, John.
Yeah, I know. So if I'm going to do a commentary
You've skipped one, by the way.
Pardon?
You've skipped a match, the other match on Ash.
Svitolina Pegula, sorry. Yes, I did.
That's going to be a blockbuster. I'm excited for that one.
No, you should be. That is pretty cool too. Svitolina Pegula. Yeah, Pegula, I think, wins, but it's not clear.
Pegula, in the form that she's in, is the favourite. But Svitolina, we know, could play well enough to play top 10 level and upset anyone. Like, this is a real danger match for Jessica Pegula.
The other thing that Alina can relax about, she hasn't got to worry about her husband playing at the same time as happened a couple of days ago when she asked the umpire, didn't she? Has my husband started yet? She hadn't. But the funny thing was the moment she said it, if she was up a set and a break and she's asking if her husband had started yet, I'd understand, because it would be like, okay, I want to get this done so I can go and watch my husband. But she also said about it afterwards, she said that she just wanted to sort of get out of a rhythm that she was in a way. She was in a negative moment because I think she was maybe down a set to love or something like that at that point when she asked it. And I think she just said, I wanted some kind of distraction from what was going on around me, because what was going on around her wasn't perfect at that point. Because actually she had loads of breakpoint opportunities in the first set against Pavlyuchenkova, and Pavlyuchenkova was just ruthless when she had her chance at the end of the first set. And that was a really good match. And I expect another good match, 2 different styles. Svitolina was a little bit more aggressive post-pregnancy than she was pre-pregnancy. She's much more fun to watch, I think. Her defense is still good. It is Pegula 55-45, but when Pegula began the tournament, although players probably don't look at it like this, Pegula fans, when the tournament began, were probably thinking, I wouldn't mind Svitolina going out in the first, couple of rounds so we don't have to play her, put it that way.
Yeah, I think definitely the case for Pegula. Interesting, something when I heard Alina make that comment about sort of, is my husband playing? I was just thinking, I wonder if she's asking that because okay, this is a joke. I wonder if she's asking that because she knows the babysitter charges by the hour.
Nice. Although I'm not sure the baby's gone with them this time, yeah. I like Pavlyuchenkova a lot. I was actually probably pulling for her against Svitolina just because I think, Pavlyuchenkova is one of these people that's in a Grand Slam final, and maybe that chance has gone now for her. But fingers crossed she gets another shot at a Grand Slam title. Probably, most likely, it would be on the clay of Paris, but we'll see. Okay, yeah, I will now scroll down to look at some of the other matches. So if I'm going to do a commentary, I'm just going to get my charger, by the way, while you just give us your thoughts on these 3 matches on Louis Armstrong.
Louis Armstrong, yes. So obviously, first up in Louis Armstrong is Clara Burel versus Aryna Sabalenka. Again, really great matchup for Sabalenka. Not really likely to be troubled, I don't think. A bit like with Jodie Burrage in the previous round. I don't think we need to spend too much time on that. I am 95% sure Aryna Sabalenka is going to win that one. Samsonova versus Keys. That's going to be an interesting one. That's going to be a big hitting battle. Lots of power hitting from both. And it's going to be down to who can be the more consistent. The one I trust to be more consistent might be Madison Keys, but even then, that's going to a lot with Keys. It does depend on the day, but we have been seeing some signs of maybe her finding her mojo a little bit. But I'm finding it really hard to call that one. I think I called Keys pre-tournament, but again, this is another one of those 55-45 picks that we're getting quite a few of on the women's side. And then the finale of the day session on Louis Armstrong is probably a match that I think a lot of people are going to be very excited about. Stan Wawrinka against Jannik Sinner. John, how do you think you see that one going?
I see Sinner winning it, but I will say this: Wawrinka in Cincinnati against Tiafoe was just lights out tennis from Stan. If he plays like that, I think he wins. But that was over 2s or best of 3 against Tiafoe. And I think it was a straight sets match. I watched that match and I thought, this is an insane level from Stan. He was just going for everything. Maybe he was just feeling free. It was an early round. It was a Masters 1000. It was against Tiafoe, and he probably thought he had to do that. If he plays like that across 5 sets, he does beat Jannik Sinner, I think. The problem is that Sinner's base level is probably a little bit higher than Stan's right now. And therefore, I'm going to go for Jannik. I also think the first set is crucial. Stan needs it. And if he doesn't get it, because I'm just not... What I see with Stan, and this is a point that Jack made, actually, and I concur with it. Stan can bring it. He can be fantastic. He can be good in moments. But all of that is why he doesn't get to second weeks of slams anymore, because they are moments. You know, you'll see him suddenly win a 5-setter in Paris and you're going, wow. And the emotion and the sweat and the tears is there from Stan, but he just can't back it up by doing it again. And that's why he's going out often in the 3rd round. I mean, it was 3rd round at Wimbledon, I think, this year against Novak. For example, I think it was 2nd or 3rd round in Paris this year. He went out. And it'll be 3rd round again, I suspect, because over the course of a 5-set match, over the course of a first week of a slam, players such as Sinner will overcome him. And I think possibly in 4 sets. What do you think?
I would agree with that. The other thing we have to account for is if you're not named Jannik Sinner only loses in 5 sets to players not named Novak Djokovic. If we look at sort of the last 5 majors that he's played, so starting Wimbledon 22, because I think he retired at the French Open in 22. He lost to Novak in 5, then Carlos in 5 at the US, Tsitsipas in 5 at Australia, Altmaier in 5 at Roland Garros, and then Djokovic beat him in straight in a Grand Slam semi-final. I think if it goes 5, that's going to play more to Sinner's hands than Stan. But everything else, I agree with you. That's just to add an extra point on top of what you're saying. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle for Stan, but I think he can get a set from Jannik Sinner and kind of show why he's still playing, even though he's, 38 now, Stan? Is that right? I think he was born in 85. So, yeah, he's 38.
Is he 38?
Yeah, he's the same age as Rafa.
Yeah, is Rafa 38? No, Rafa was born 86. I'm pretty sure.
Rafa was born 86. Yeah, so Rafa's 37. But Stan is 38. And so he's still going. He's still got it in him for the moment. And let's just make the most of Stan being a big name for continuing to bring the entertainment, bring some brilliant tennis to us right now. So, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, if you're on Louis Armstrong day session, you're in for, I'd say, a nice sort of slow warm up with Sabalenka, and then you're in for some absolute corkers for the other 2 day matches.
Because of the convenience, the time it begins, and also the fact that it's a women's match and therefore likely to be shorter, I'm going to do a watch along for Sabalenka Burel. It just works nicely for me. I think it'll start in about 45 minutes or so. So it gives me a chance to have a shower and get changed, and then I'll do a live watch along for Burel Sabalenka. Are you available at all today? Because I can't produce, Nick. That's the only thing. So if you were to do a match, you'd be on your own.
I don't think I will do one today, if that's all right.
No problem.
I think I've did a bit of a stint yesterday. We could talk again a bit, but I'm not necessarily interested in doing Burel versus Sabalenka, and obviously I'm also a little bit at the mercy of whatever my TV provider shows. So I'm pretty guaranteed that the first match I'm going to be watching today is going to be Michael Mmoh versus Jack Draper, which, to be fair, should be a decent one.
Yeah, I mean, what time is that Jack Draper match?
That's the first one. That's the same time as Burel Sabalenka.
I mean, if you want, we can do it together, and I'll do Burel Sabalenka and you do Mmoh Draper. But if Mmoh Draper, as likely is the case, goes on beyond,
let's talk about this offline.
All right. Yeah. True. Yeah. We're talking about it.
We're still live, John. We're still live.
Good point. All right. So let's go down then on our screen. So I need to go back to that because I think we've done all those matches. Other matches today: Zverev Dimitrov. Zverev in 4.
Yeah, probably. I think I think Zverev and Dimitrov played in Cincinnati, and it wasn't that close. I mean, it depends. Dimitrov might bring it. If Dimitrov brings it, then that's going to be a good match. But I'm not expecting that.
Cool. Alexandrova, Vondrousova in 3.
Yeah, Alexandrova has the potential to hit Vondrousova off the court, but I think Vondrousova should win that match based on form, based on ranking, and she's currently winning the matches she should win. So, and Alexandrova, we know, has a round 3 problem. So, I will go with Vondrousova.
Mo Draper in 4.
Yeah, I think Mo has a habit of losing the very next match he wins after a big win, and obviously that was a big win against Isner.
Draper for me is all about health. If he stays healthy,
Yeah.
The bold prediction of which I called bold at the time from Mario of Draper getting to the quarters doesn't look quite so crazy anymore.
It's not that crazy, no. Like, again, you're right. It does. I would never have really said it was. I would have said it was crazy because I didn't think Draper was healthy. But he appears to be. And okay, if he does get to the quarters, he's got to beat the winner of the match straight after him on Grand Slam, Rinderknech Rublev. Rinderknech, I'd give him a good chance against. Rublev, that's going to be a battle.
Yeah. All right. Rinderknech Rublev. Yeah, I think so. But I'll probably go Rublev in 5, maybe.
I'll go Rublev in 3 or 4.
Rublev has had a nice draw. Very nice. He was due to play Ruusuvuori, but Ruusuvuori pulled out ill. And of course, Ruusuvuori beat him recently. And then he plays Monfils. It's a winnable match for Rublev, in my opinion. And he did win it in 4. And now Rinderknech 3rd round. It's a nice draw for him to get to the 4th round, in my opinion. Bolter, by the way, yeah, there's a 4th round for her, although I know that Ghosty will be obviously pulling for Stern. So there's a Ghost versus Talking Tennis.
That's a real 50-50 match. I can't call that one.
Yeah. All right.
They're both very similar level.
Yep, indeed. Any other matches, or are we done now?
I think there's a couple more, but obviously they're kind of lower down. I think if you go to, they're on court 17.
Yeah. So, any of these 3 exciting? Jarry de Minaur, I think, could be interesting.
Yeah, I think Jarry de Minaur has potential, definitely to be interesting. I think that's one that's worth keeping an eye on for drama developing. I think there's definitely going to be some long rallies and a lot of great sort of point construction in there. Looking at the others, I'm expecting Norrie to beat Arnaldi, but then it's Cam Norrie, so who knows? Arnaldi has just got a good win over Artur Fils. And Kasatkina Minen, I'm expecting a lot of moonballs.
Yeah. Yep. All right, cool. Let's bring this to an end because we've been going an hour and 20 minutes and I want to get changed and showered. And also, I'll be back in half an hour. Maybe 1 or 2 other people will be joining me at various junctures for the first few hours of the day's play in New York. So make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Come and join us again in about half an hour for the watch-alongs that we'll be doing for the first few hours of the day in New York. Nick, big thank you for joining me today.
Thanks very much for having me on, John. I've enjoyed it.
Tennis Twit just joining us for the last couple of minutes. Sorry, Tennis Twit, but mate, you can feel free to. By the way, if you are watching this retrospectively, get in the comments below. Agree and disagree with anything that Nick and I have said. But that's wrapping us up right now. But if you're thinking, oh, I've just got here, well, we'll be back in half an hour, so we'll see you then. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, John.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.